Hi boys and girls, thank you so much for watching our videos again. This week we're going to be learning all about frogs. And so before we get started with our book, we're going to look at some pictures and talk about some vocabulary for frogs so you kind of have a good idea of what we're talking about in our book. So today we're going to talk about the frog life cycle. The first step of being a frog is you're an egg. Eggs kind of look like eyeballs. They're kind of clear and squishy. After you leave your egg, you become a tadpole. Tadpoles don't really look like frogs, do they? They have little tiny legs. They have a long tail. They don't really look like a frog. But as they get a little bit older, they grow even longer legs. You can see he's starting to look a little bit more like a frog. And then he becomes a froglet. It's kind of like being a teenager, a froglet. He looks kind of like a frog, but he still has his tadpole tail. And when he gets a little bit older, then he becomes a grown frog, an adult frog, where his tail is no more. He has strong arms and legs. And so here we see a little picture that kind of goes over them again. So remember, they start out as eggs. Then they become tadpoles, then froglets with little legs and a tail, and then finally an adult frog. So our book today is called From Tadpole to Frog. It's written by Wendy Pfeffer and illustrated by Holly Keller. So here you can kind of see more of those pictures. Here's an adult frog, and here we have a tadpole and froglets as they grow their legs. From tadpole to frog. This is Frog Pond. But where are the frogs? When winter winds whistle, the frogs hide. They sleep at the bottom of the pond in the soft mud. Frogs hibernate in their hideaway all winter long. So when it's cold, frogs like to sleep in the warm, soft mud because it's too cold for them to be up on the surface of the water. After the ice melts, flowers appear, birds return, and pond creatures wake up. Spring has arrived at Frog Pond. Here are the old frogs stretching their legs. At night you hear boom, boom, boom. The males are calling to their mates. So when it warms up, you see all of the animals come back, including the grown-up frogs from last year. The females hear the call. The male hugs his mate. He fertilizes her eggs as she lays them in the water. Thousands of soft, jelly-covered eggs cling together in the cool water. In about 10 days, the eggs hatch. The pond comes alive with thousands of tiny tadpoles. They wiggle their tails and breathe underwater with gills, just like fish. So you remember those eggs that kind of look like eyeballs? Well, in 10 days, they grow tiny little tadpoles, and eventually the tadpoles come out. During the summer, the tadpoles swim about eating water plants. But water beetles, snakes, and birds are eating too. They're eating tasty tadpoles. So the tadpoles have to be very careful, otherwise the other animals will try to eat them. When fall comes, look carefully in the water. Are any tadpoles left? Do you see any tadpoles? Let's see what happened. Look here. Are they tadpoles or wet leaves? They're brownish speckled tadpoles. Hundreds of them float by with brownish speckled leaves. Eating and swimming, swimming and eating, the tadpoles grow fat. When winter winds blow again, they burrow under the mud at the bottom of the pond. They do not eat, They do not move. They just sleep. So now it's been 1 whole year since the grown-up frogs woke up, and now the tadpoles are going to sleep under the nice warm mud. When spring sunshine warms the tadpoles' world, they awake, hungry. So they swim and eat and swim. Tiny hind legs begin to sprout. They grow longer and stronger while the tail grows shorter. So as springtime comes again, they grow long, strong legs and their tails get shorter. Tiny front legs begin to show. The tadpoles look like long-tailed frogs. All summer, the tadpoles change more. Lungs develop and more. Mouths and eyes grow larger and more until they become frogs. So here you can see that tadpole with his legs, and here you can see that froglet like the teenage frog where his tail is very short and he looks almost like a grown-up frog. When their tails disappear, they are no longer tadpoles. Now they use their strong legs and webbed feet to swim instead of their tails. Now they can rest on lily pads and leap onto land. The frogs flick out their long, sticky tongues and capture worms, spiders, and dragonflies. Now where are the frogs? Slowly the days grow colder, winter winds blow, birds fly south. Once again the pond creatures hibernate. Where are the frogs now? Do you remember where the frogs go when it gets cold? The end. These are some facts about frogs, so let's read them. There are about 2,000 kinds of frogs. They are different sizes, shapes, they live in different places, and they are different colors. But they are also alike in many ways. They grow from eggs to tadpoles to four-legged frogs. They also eat pretty much the same thing. Bugs, worms, dragonflies, those kinds of things. Here we have a leopard or grass frog, and this is the most common frog in North America where we live. Here we have a pickerel frog. They are greenish brown with squarish dark brown spots, and poison comes out of their skin, so snakes will not eat them. Here we have wood frog. Wood frogs live in the woods. They lay eggs in quiet woodland pools, and they are brownish with black robber's masks on their faces. See how they kind of have a mask that makes them look like a robber? Here we have a spring peeper. Tiny spring peepers have loud, clear voices. They start to sing after the first warm rain. Peepers are one of the first signs of spring. So here you can see this bright orange peeper. A gray tree frog lives in trees and shrubs. They come down only to lay their eggs in nearby ponds or streams, and their color changes to match the trees. They can stay still for a long time so their enemies do not see them. Where are the bullfrogs? This map shows where bullfrogs live throughout the United States. So if we look at this map, we live down here. Remember we live in that triangle we saw on the map? There are not a lot of bullfrogs where we live, especially because we live in the desert and frogs need lots of water to live. There's not a lot of water where we live. So bullfrogs like to live more on the East Coast, up here by the Statue of Liberty, and all along the south where there's a lot of rain and a lot of lakes and rivers. Not so much here because in this part of our country is a lot of desert and mountains, so it's not a very good place for bullfrogs to live. As you work through your assignments this week, we're going to be learning all about frogs, how they grow from eggs to tadpoles to froglets to adult frogs, the parts of frogs and what they eat. And I'll be back soon with another story with frogs. Until then, stay safe. Bye.